I still remember that day like it was yesterday. The day my son Ryan tied the knot. Our little house in suburban Ohio was jam-packed with folks laughing and carrying on, music blasting and me right smack in the middle, grinning ear to ear as I watched him swap vows with his bride Emily. She was a real sweetheart, full of pep and big dreams, and heck, I figured this was going to bring us all even closer. But as the party wrapped up and everyone headed out, I felt this nagging twinge in my gut, like something was off that I couldn't quite put my finger on. The whole shindig was a blast, no doubt about it. I'd been knee-deep in planning for months, picking flowers, sampling cakes, daydreaming about how our family was going to expand with Emily in the mix. Ryan had been my rock ever since his dad passed a decade back. We were thick as thieves, chatting over coffee till the wee hours or hitting up the farmer's market on weekends. What I didn't see coming was how fast things can flip when someone starts their own gig. A couple weeks post-honeymoon, they snagged this cute apartment downtown, nearer to Ryan's tech job. I waved him off with a big old smile, their car loaded with boxes, telling myself it was natural for kids to spread their wings. But the phone calls started fizzling out, daily check-ins turned weekly. Then zilch and drop-ins became lame excuses about work piling up. I'd plop down in the living room evenings, staring at the silent phone, wondering if I'd dropped the ball somewhere along the line. Honestly, the loneliness crept in slow, like molasses in winter. One morning I woke to the house dead quiet, just the fridge humming away, and it hit me I hadn't jawed with a soul in days. My buddies from the neighborhood knitting group tried popping by, but it wasn't the same as hearing Ryan's laugh. I kept figuring he'd snap out of it. That newlywed life just needed time to settle. But deep down, I felt like I'd been ditched in the rear view of his shiny new world. Have you ever felt like that, where everything's moving forward but you're stuck in neutral? That's how those first months dragged on for me. I'd shuffle through the house, fingering old snapshots of Ryan as a kid, feeling this tangle of love and ache. It wasn't mad yet, just a deep-down blue that my only boy had built a life that didn't seem to have room for his old mom anymore. Looking back, I reckon the first real red flag popped up about 3 months after the big day. I'd been under the weather, nothing major, just a nagging cough that wouldn't quit. So I rang Ryan up to see if he could swing by with some chicken noodle from our favorite diner. He sounded all frazzled on the line, yapping about a killer deadline at work and how Emily was buried in her new nursing shifts. "Mom, we'll shoot for this weekend," he said. "But come Sunday, no show, just a quick text apologizing with some emoji that didn't make it sting any less." I tried brushing it off, telling myself folks get busy, but then Thanksgiving rolled around, and that's when it really socked me in the gut. We'd always done the holidays big, turkey, all the fixings, Ryan carving like his dad used to. This year, though, he called last minute, saying they were heading to Emily's folks in Michigan instead. "It's just fair, Mom. We gotta split time," he explained, and I swallowed hard, saying sure, no problem, even as tears blurred my vision hanging up. I ended up nuking a frozen dinner alone, the TV blaring some parade to fill the silence. What I didn't get at the time was how isolation sneaks up and messes with your head. I'd catch myself forgetting little things, like where I left my keys or staring out the window for hours. My neighbor Sue noticed and dragged me to bingo night, bless her heart. But even there, hearing other gals chatter about their kids' visits made me feel like an outsider. I loved Ryan, don't get me wrong, but this new distance felt like a wall going up brick by brick. You wouldn't believe how small a person can feel in their own home. I'd replay our old talks in my mind, wondering what shifted. Was it Emily? Nah, she seemed sweet enough. Or maybe Ryan's job sucking the life out of him. Either way, I started questioning if I'd been too clingy, too much the hovering mom. But hindsight's 20/20, right? Back then, it just hurt. That winter dragged on cold and endless, with snow piling up outside matching the chill inside me. One evening, scraping ice off my car for a grocery run, I slipped and twisted my ankle bad. Called Ryan from the ER, voice shaky, but it went to voicemail. Hours later, his text, "Sorry, Mom. In a meeting. You okay?" That broke something in me, but I texted back fine, not wanting to be a burden. After that ER scare, I clammed up a bit, figuring if I didn't reach out, maybe he'd notice the quiet. But weeks turned into a month. And nada, just a birthday card in the mail, with a generic "love you" scrolled inside. I turned 70 that year, and staring at my cake from the bakery, cutting a solo slice, I felt invisible, like I'd faded into the wallpaper of my own life. Friends called to wish me well, but their pitying tones just amplified the emptiness. Honestly, what got to me most wasn't the big stuff. It was the little everyday bits, like how we used to grab ice cream on hot days, or binge-watch old sitcoms when he visited. Now, my days blurred into routines, coffee alone, tending the garden that looked more ragged each week, evening walks where I'd wave at neighbors but keep moving. I started volunteering at the local library, shelving books to fill time. And that's where I met folks in similar boats, widos empty nesters sharing stories over lukewarm tea in the break room. But even there, hearing about their kids checking in regularly twisted the knife. I'd nod and smile, but inside, doubts gnawed. Had I raised Ryan wrong? Was this payback for some past mistake? His dad and I had our rough patches, sure, but we always put family first. What I realized, slow-like, was anger bubbling under the hurt. Not at Ryan, but at how life can yank the rug out. You ever have those nights where sleep won't come? And your mind races? Mine did that a lot, replaying the wedding, the move, the fading contact. I'd wonder about Emily, too. Did she know how this felt? Or was she caught up in their bubble? One day, I mustered guts to text Ryan a photo of his childhood bike in the garage, saying, "Remember this?" His reply, "Haha, yeah, busy week." That curtness stung worse than silence. Spring brought some thaw outside, but not in my heart. I bumped into Ryan's old buddy at the store, and he asked how the newlyweds were. "Great, I think," I said, forcing cheer, but his raised eyebrow told me he sensed the fib. Driving home, tears came unbidden, and for the first time I admitted to myself this wasn't just busyness. It was neglect, plain and simple. As summer heated up, so did my frustration. I'd see families at the park, kids, parents, grandparents picnicking, and it'd hit like a ton of bricks. Why couldn't that be us? I finally caved and called Ryan straight up. No beating around the bush. "Son, I miss you. When can we catch up?" He sighed, that heavy kind, and mumbled about schedules clashing. "Soon, Mom, promise." But soon stretched like taffy, and another month slipped by. What I didn't tell anyone was the health stuff creeping in. My blood pressure spiked, doc said stress-related, and prescribed pills I sometimes forgot to take. Mornings, I'd feel dizzy grabbing the mail, heart pounding like a drum. Sue next door noticed me wobbling and insisted on driving me to appointments. "Where's that boy of yours?" she'd ask, and I'd shrug it off with busy as a bee. Deep down, though, resentment brewed. Not hate, never that, but a quiet fury at being sidelined. I'd scroll Facebook, seeing Ryan's posts, date nights with Emily, weekend hikes, looking happy as clams. No mention of me, like I'd vanished. That hurt more than I can say, making me question my worth. Was I just the launch pad for his life, discarded once he took off? Have you been there, feeling like a ghost in your own story? I confided in my sister over the phone. She's out in California, and she urged me to speak up louder. "Don't let it fester, sis." But confrontation ain't my style. I'd always been the peacekeeper. Still, her words planted a seed. One sweltering afternoon, Emily called out of the blue. "Hi, Mom." "Oh, Mrs. Thompson, just checking in." We chatted awkward-like about weather and work, but she sounded genuine. Ended with, "We should visit soon." Hope flickered, But weeks passed, no follow-up. That false start crushed me more than outright ignore. By fall, leaves turning gold matched my mellowing mood, not better, just numb. I'd built walls, focusing on my routine, library shifts, knitting club, even signed up for a senior yoga class at the community center. Met a nice widower there, Tom, who shared coffee after, talking about his own distant kids. "It happens," he said, "but it don't define you." His words stuck, making me see I wasn't alone in this mess. Still, holidays loomed again, and dread built. Last year's solo turkey haunted me. I hinted to Ryan in a voicemail. "Thinking of hosting Christmas. You in?" His callback. "Sounds good, but Emily's folks want us too. We'll figure it." Figure it turned into "can't make it, Mom, next time." I hung up, tears hot, and for the first time, anger won over hurt. "Enough," I muttered to the empty room. What shifted was realizing I deserved better. Not revenge, but respect. I started journaling, spilling feelings onto pages. The joy of raising Ryan, the pain of his absence, fears of dying alone. It helped, like lancing a boil. Sue read some, teared up, said, "You gotta tell him this." You wouldn't guess, but that journal sparked change. One entry detailed a memory of Ryan's dad teaching him to fish, how family bonds endure. It reminded me love ain't gone, just buried under life's junk, but how to dig it out. As winter nipped again, a bad flu knocked me flat. Bedridden, feverish, I finally texted Ryan sick, could use help. Hours later, his reply, "On my way." My heart leaped, but doubt whispered. Would he really show? The doorbell rang, and there he stood, looking worried. That moment cracked the ice. But boy, we had miles to go. By the way, where are you watching this from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments, because I have a feeling some of you understand exactly what it's like when your own family turns on you. If you're new here, this is Grandma Rift Chronicles, and you're going to want to hit that subscribe button because this story gets so much worse before it gets better, and trust me, you won't want to miss a single part of what happens next. You know, when Ryan showed up at my door that winter evening, looking all flustered with a bag of groceries in hand, it was like seeing a ghost from happier times. He bustled in, fussing over me with blankets and hot tea, apologizing up a storm for not coming sooner. "Mom, I didn't realize it was this bad," he said, his voice cracking a bit. And for a moment I saw the boy I raised peeking through the stressed-out man he'd become. But even as he helped me to the couch, I couldn't shake the months of silence weighing heavy between us. We talked a little that night, surface stuff mostly. His job, Emily's long hours at the hospital. But I didn't dive into the hurt, not yet. He stayed a couple hours, making sure I took my meds, and promised to check back soon. Driving away, his taillights fading in the snow, left me with a mix of relief and fresh ache. It was a start, sure, but one visit doesn't erase the loneliness that settled in like an old friend. What I started piecing together, though, was glimpses of their side. Ryan mentioned offhand how work had him pulling 80-hour weeks, chasing promotions to afford their apartment. Emily, he said, was dealing with back-to-back shifts, barely sleeping. "We're just trying to keep our heads above water, Mom." It made sense on paper, but didn't fully ease the sting of being forgotten. Still, hearing it humanized them a tad reminded me they weren't villains, just folks drowning in their own mess. Honestly, that visit opened a crack in the door. A few days later, Emily texted, asking how I was feeling, and we chatted a bit online. She shared about her own mom passing young, how it left her wary of family ties. "I didn't mean to pull Ryan away," she wrote, and I sensed real regret there. It got me thinking, maybe this wasn't all on them. Perhaps I'd been too proud to admit I needed more. Have you ever had that realization where the picture flips and you see everyone's struggles clearer? That's what brewed in me over the next weeks. I journaled more, noting how my independence might have sent mixed signals. like I was fine on my own. But deep down, I craved connection, and admitting that felt vulnerable as heck. As the days warmed into early spring, Ryan started dropping by more sporadic at first, like grabbing coffee on his lunch break. We'd sit on the porch, watching birds flit about, and he'd open up about the pressures piling on. Work's a grinder, Mom. Deadlines, bosses breathing down my neck. It's like I'm always one step from burnout. Hearing him vent like that, I saw echoes of his dad, who worked himself ragged before the heart attack took him. It hit me that Ryan was repeating patterns, burying himself to provide just like we did. Emily joined one visit, bringing homemade muffins, and we talked real for the first time. She confessed how overwhelming married life felt, juggling career and home without much support. I love Ryan, but sometimes I feel like we're ships passing in the night. Her eyes got misty recounting her childhood, bouncing between foster homes after her mom's death. No wonder she guarded her heart. Family for her meant loss, not comfort. What surprised me was learning their side of the silence. Ryan admitted scrolling my missed calls, but putting off replies, thinking I'd understand. I figured you were busy with your groups, Mom. Didn't want to bother you. Bother me? It floored me how misunderstandings snowball. I'd assumed they didn't care. But really, it was a cocktail of exhaustion and assumptions. You wouldn't believe how those chats shifted things inside me. Anger faded into empathy, seeing them not as neglectful but as stretched thin. Still, hurt lingered. Why'd it take me getting sick to spark this? I kept that to myself, focusing on rebuilding bit by bit. Looking back, that period deepened my understanding of generational gaps. Us boomers prize self-reliance, but these kids face a world moving at warp speed, with apps and jobs demanding constant hustle. Ryan shared how social media painted perfect lives, making him feel like a failure if he slowed down. It made me reflect on my own upbringing, where family dinners were sacred, no distractions. One weekend, they invited me over to their apartment for dinner, a simple pasta thing, but it felt monumental. Walking in, I saw the chaos, stacks of work papers, laundry baskets overflowing, and it clicked why visits were rare. Their place was cozy, but cramped, no room for extras, and Emily apologized for the mess. We're still figuring this adulting stuff out, she laughed, and Ryan nodded, looking sheepish. Over dinner, conversation flowed easier. Ryan talked about a promotion he was gunning for, how it meant more stability but longer hours. Emily shared dreams of starting a family someday, but fears of balancing it all. What if we mess up like my folks did? She whispered, and I reached over, squeezing her hand. For the first time, I opened up about my loneliness, soft-like. I just miss you both, that's all. Their reactions? Ryan's face fell like he'd been punched. Mom, I had no idea it was that bad. I thought you were okay. Emily teared up, admitting she'd pushed for more couple time, not realizing it cut me out. It wasn't excuses, it was raw honesty, and it bridged some gaps. We hugged it out, promising better communication, but I knew words alone wouldn't stick. Does this sound familiar, where good intentions pave rocky roads? It did to me, reminding how families drift without effort. That night, driving home, hope flickered stronger, but doubt nagged. Would this momentum last? What I learned was seeing their perspective humanized the pain. They weren't abandoning me on purpose. Life just swept them up. Still, building toward real change meant addressing the root, not just symptoms. As summer approached, we tried family outings. A picnic here, a movie there, but hiccups arose. One planned barbecue got canceled last minute for Ryan's work emergency, leaving me with a fridge full of uneaten food. Disappointment hit hard, but instead of stewing, I called him out gently next day. Son, I get work's important, but so are we. He paused long, then agreed, sounding tired. You're right, Mom. I'll do better. Emily stepped up too, suggesting weekly video calls to stay connected. We'd chat about everything: recipes, books, even her tough shifts dealing with patients. She opened up about feeling guilty, how her past made her hyper-independent. "I didn't want to impose on you," she said. And I assured her family ain't an imposition, it's a gift. Deepening this, I visited their world more, helped organize their cluttered office, shared tips from my working days. Ryan confessed the wedding whirlwind left him disoriented, prioritizing the new over the old. "I took you for granted, assuming you'd always be there." That admission stung but healed, showing growth. You ever notice how sharing vulnerabilities bonds folks? It did for us, turning strangers-in-law into allies, but tension simmered. I sensed a turning point brewing, something to force real shift. Honestly, those months taught me patience, seeing their struggles as valid. Caregiver burnout ain't just for elders. Young folks feel it too, juggling plates that keep spinning faster. By midsummer, patterns emerged, better intentions, but old habits died hard. Ryan missed a couple calls. Emily got swamped with overtime. A frustration built again, but this time I voiced it during a visit. "We need a plan, not just promises," I said, and they nodded, looking earnest. That's when Sue, my neighbor, got involved unwittingly. She stopped by while they were over, chatting about her own kids' visits, and dropped how she'd helped me through the rough patches. Ryan overheard, face paling as reality sank in. "Mom's been that alone?" he asked later, voice small. Emily suggested therapy, family sessions to unpack it all. "We've all got baggage," she said, and Ryan agreed, surprising me. It felt like the build-up to a real pivot where understanding turned to action. What I realized was this neglect stemmed from ignorance, not malice, the fast-paced life blinding them to my slower one. Building empathy was key, but now change loomed. Have you felt that edge, where awareness tips into transformation? We were there, teetering, ready for the turn. You know, that summer evening when we sat down for our first real heart-to-heart, it felt like the dam finally broke. Ryan looked me square in the eye and said, "Mom, Sue's words hit hard. I didn't realize how much we've let you down." Emily nodded along, her hand on his knee, and shared how her own past made her pull away from family stuff without thinking. It was raw, no excuses, just owning up. And for the first time in ages, I felt seen, not pitied, but truly understood. We talked late into the night, digging into the whys and hows. Ryan admitted the job pressure had him in a chokehold, making him blind to anything else, while Emily confessed fear of repeating her childhood mistakes kept her at arm's length. I opened up too, about the bone-deep loneliness, the fear of being a burden. Tears flowed all around, but they were the good kind, cleansing, like rain after a drought. What shifted everything was deciding on family counseling. Emily found a local therapist specializing in generational stuff, and we booked a session right then. "No more sweeping under the rug," Ryan declared, and I believed him. It was the turning point where words turned to commitments. Honestly, walking out that night, a weight lifted, not fixed overnight, but the awakening had begun. Them seeing my pain, me grasping their chaos. Have you ever had that moment where fog clears and paths forward appear? Our first therapy session was awkward as all get out, sitting in that cozy office with tissues handy. The counselor, a kind lady named Dr. Harris, had us each share our side without interrupting. Ryan went first, talking about work stress turning him into a zombie, barely noticing the world outside. Emily followed, her voice shaky, explaining how loss made her build walls, unintentionally shutting me out. When my turn came, I let it all spill. The silence after calls, holidays alone, feeling like yesterday's news. Dr. Harris nodded, saying this was classic drift in modern families, with young folks hustling and elders fading into background. She assigned homework, weekly check-ins, no cancellations without reschedule. You wouldn't believe how that structure helped. Ryan started texting daily, even silly memes to lighten things. Emily invited me for lunch at her hospital cafeteria, sharing stories from her shifts. Small steps, but they built momentum toward real change. Looking back, that session sparked the family awakening. We weren't just venting, we were committing to fix it. Doubts lingered, would life derail us again? But hope outweighed them. What I realized was healing starts with hearing each other out. No blame games, just understanding. If you've walked this road, you know it's messy but worth it. As fall colors painted the trees, our sessions dug deeper, uncovering old wounds. Ryan shared resentment from his teen years, feeling I leaned on him too much after Dad died, which made him crave independence now. It stung hearing that, but it made sense. I'd been so focused on surviving, I missed his needs. Emily opened about trust issues, how fostering taught her self-reliance over reliance. Dr. Harris guided us to empathy exercises, like role-playing each other's days. I tried imagining Ryan's high-stakes meetings, the exhaustion after. He pictured my quiet house, the echo of solitude. It bridged gaps, turning me problems into us solutions. First steps toward change showed in actions. Ryan took a personal day to help winterize my house, sealing windows and chatting the whole time. Emily started a shared calendar app for visits, blocking time like sacred appointments. Have you felt that spark when awareness flips to action? We did, but it wasn't smooth. Old habits crept in, like Ryan flaking once due to overtime. Instead of exploding, we addressed it in session, learning tools to communicate better. Honestly, this period felt like rebirth. Family awakening wasn't a light bulb moment. It was gradual, built on vulnerability and effort. We were turning the corner, shaky but determined. By late fall, practical changes took root. We set boundaries, no work talk during visits, focusing on presence. Ryan negotiated flex hours at his job, freeing weekends. Emily joined a support group for healthcare workers, easing her burnout. One breakthrough came during a session on forgiveness. I admitted holding grudges over the neglect, and they owned their part. Dr. Harris had us write letters, not to send, just to express. Mine poured out hurt, but ended with love. Reading snippets aloud bonded us tighter. Steps forward included me teaching them Dad's old recipes over Sunday dinners at their place. Laughter filled the air, mending cracks. I felt agency again, not just the forgotten mom. You ever notice how change snowballs once started? A neighbor's comment on my brighter demeanor confirmed it. Doubts faded as consistency built trust. What deepened the awakening was recognizing shared humanity. We all mess up, but we can course correct. It paved the way for true rebuilding. As winter holidays neared, we planned together, no assumptions. We hosted a blended Thanksgiving, my traditions mixed with Emily's foster family recipes. Ryan carved the turkey, eyes misty remembering Dad. It wasn't perfect. Tensions flared over small stuff, but we talked through, using therapy tools. The turning point solidified when Ryan surprised me with a key to their apartment. "Come anytime, Mom. Your family, not a guest." Emily hugged me, whispering thanks for patience. It symbolized the shift, from distance to inclusion. First steps multiplied, joint walks, movie nights, even helping with my garden. Change felt tangible, not fleeting. Have you experienced that relief when wounds start scarring over? We were there, awakening fully, ready for healing ahead. Honestly, reflecting now, it taught that families evolve, but love anchors if nurtured. We had work left, but the foundation strengthened. Once we got past that initial awakening in therapy, the real work kicked in with those practical steps to mend what was broken. Dr. Harris suggested starting small, like setting up a family meal plan where we'd rotate hosting dinners every other week. No excuses, rain or shine. Ryan jumped on it, volunteering to grill burgers at their place first, and Emily added her twist with fresh salads from her hospital's farmer's market hookup. It wasn't fancy, but sitting around their tiny table, passing plates and swapping stories, felt like stitching up old tears in a favorite quilt. We tackled the everyday stuff too, like medication reminders and check-ins. I admitted forgetting my blood pressure pills sometimes, so Emily set up this app that pinged all three of us. Me to take them to confirm. Ryan even drove me to doc appointments, turning the car rides into catch-up time, blasting old rock tunes we both loved from his high school days. These weren't grand gestures, but they built a rhythm, making me feel part of their world again instead of on the sidelines. What I learned through it all was how healing comes in layers. First, the emotional gut punch, then the hands-on fixes. Forgiveness snuck in quiet-like during those meals, as we laughed over burnt edges or shared wins from the week. Have you ever noticed how sharing food softens hearts? It did for us, turning resentment into teamwork. Honestly, rebuilding wasn't always smooth. There were slip-ups, like Ryan canceling once for work, but we addressed it quick in our next session. That accountability kept us on track, showing growth ain't linear but worth the effort. By spring's end, our bond felt sturdier, like a bridge reinforced after a storm. As we dove deeper into practical healing, lessons started popping up everywhere, like weeds after rain. But the good kind you learn from. One biggie was communication. Dr. 70T Harris had us practice "I feel" statements to avoid blame. Like, instead of "you forgot me," I'd say, "I feel lonely" when calls drop off. Ryan tried it too, opening up about feeling guilty juggling everything, which made Emily chime in on her burnout fears. Those talks peeled back layers, revealing how we'd all been carrying invisible loads. We rebuilt relationships through shared activities, not just talks. Emily and I started a book club, just us two at first, dissecting cozy mysteries over tea at my house. Ryan joined later, surprising us with his takes, and it sparked memories of bedtime stories I'd read him as a kid. These moments taught me resilience, how to bounce back without bitterness, and them about balancing life without dropping family balls. You wouldn't believe the shift in trust. Little by little, I stopped bracing for disappointment. One lesson that stuck was owning our parts, me for not speaking up sooner, them for assuming I was fine. It fostered forgiveness, not the forget everything kind, but the move forward together type. Looking back, those months were about turning insight into action. We even planned a weekend getaway to cabin upstate, packing games and hikes to reconnect without distractions. Slips happened. Emily's shift ran late once. But we adapted. Learning flexibility is key to lasting bonds. If you've been through family rifts, you know rebuilding takes patience. For us, it deepened connections, making everyday interactions richer. And hey, if stories like this hit home, subscribe to catch more. They might help someone you know navigate their own healing. Practical healing ramped up with more hands-on stuff, like organizing my home to make it easier for visits. Ryan spent a Saturday installing grab bars in the bathroom. Safety first, he said, and we turned it into a project day, blasting music and ordering pizza. Emily helped declutter the garage, unearthing old photos that led to hours of storytelling, laughing over his awkward teen phases. These tasks weren't chores, they were bridges rebuilding our family unit brick by brick. Lessons learned hit hard during quieter times. I realized independence is great, but isolation ain't asking for help. Strengthened us, not weakened. Ryan confessed workaholism was his crutch, vowing to set boundaries like no emails after 7. Emily shared how therapy unpacked her trust issues, teaching her vulnerability as strength, not weakness. Relationship rebuilding blossomed in unexpected ways. We started traditions, like monthly game nights, where competition got fierce but fun, reminding us of lighter days. Forgiveness flowed naturally here, as wins and losses showed we're all human. Have you ever rebuilt after a fallout, finding joy in the process? We did, with each step solidifying our ties. One hiccup, an argument over holiday plans, but we used our tools, pause, listen, respond, and it passed quicker than before. Honestly, this phase taught collective growth. We weren't just fixing the past. We were crafting a better future, one shared moment at a time. By now, practical steps had us in a groove, like a well-oiled machine. We set up a shared grocery list app for when they shopped for me, ensuring I had favorites without fuss. Ryan took over yard work on weekends, turning it into father-son time, more like son-mom bonding, while Emily and I baked her, learning my secret pie crust recipe. These routines healed practically, easing daily burdens and fostering closeness. Lessons poured in. The power of consistency, how small acts compound into big changes. I learned to voice needs without guilt, they to prioritize without resentment. Rebuilding meant addressing unresolved stuff too, like Ryan's grief over Dad, which we'd skirted before. Therapy helped unpack it, bringing us tighter. You ever discover hidden strengths in healing? Emily did, leading a family meditation session that calmed our stresses. Forgiveness deepened, becoming mutual understanding rather than pardon. Slips? Sure. Like when work pulled Ryan away again, but we rebounded faster, using it as a teachable moment. Our relationships evolved. Me as advisor, not just mom, them as partners, not obligations. What stuck was intergenerational wisdom, each teaching the other. Ryan showed me tech tricks, I shared life hacks. It rebuilt trust, making our family resilient. As healing progressed, we focused on emotional layers alongside the practical. Deep conversations happened organically, like during walks where Ryan admitted fearing he'd fail as a provider. Echoing his dad's struggles, Emily opened about wanting kids but dreading the balance, and I shared my own new mom fears from way back. These vulnerabilities rebuilt intimacy, turning us from distant relatives to confidants. Lessons learned emphasized acceptance of flaws, changes, life's curveballs. I accepted aging's limits without shame, they my need for inclusion without annoyance. Rebuilding included community too. I invited Sue to a dinner, blending worlds and showing support networks matter. Have you felt that peace when bonds mend? We did, with forgiveness as the glue, not erasing hurts, but learning from them. One milestone, our first holiday fully together, no drama, just gratitude. Honestly, this stretch showed growth's beauty. We weren't perfect, but better, communicating, supporting, loving deeper. It set the stage for reflection ahead. Looking back now from where we are, I can honestly say that the hardest part wasn't the loneliness itself. It was believing that it had to stay that way forever. These days, when Ryan and Emily pull into the driveway on a Sunday morning with coffee and donuts, or when Emily texts me a silly photo from her shift just to say she's thinking of me, I feel this quiet peace settle in my chest that I hadn't known in years. It's not that everything's perfect. Life still throws curveballs, but we've built something sturdy enough to weather them together. What I've come to understand is that being forgotten doesn't mean you're forgettable. It just means the people you love got lost for a while in their own storms. Ryan told me one night over a glass of wine on my porch that he'd spent so long chasing the next promotion, the next milestone, thinking that's what success looked like. I thought if I worked hard enough, everything else would just fall into place, he said. Turns out family doesn't fall into place. You have to choose it every single day. Hearing that from my boy, all grown up and owning his mistakes, healed something deep inside me. Emily's grown too. She started leaving little notes in my mailbox. Thank yous for recipes, or just love you, Mom. And it hits me how far we've come from those awkward first visits. She even asked me to teach her how to knit. And now we sit side by side some evenings, needles clicking, talking about everything and nothing. Have you ever found family in someone you weren't sure would ever let you in? That's what happened with us. Honestly, the biggest gift has been watching them learn from each other too. Ryan slowed down at work, takes real vacations now. Emily's talking about cutting back hours when they start a family. And me? I've learned it's okay to need people, to say, I could use some company without feeling like a burden. Aging doesn't have to mean shrinking into the background. It can mean stepping forward into a new kind of closeness. One of the sweetest moments came last fall when we took a little road trip together. Just the three of us, up to the lake where Ryan's dad and I used to take him camping as a kid. We rented the same old cabin, built a fire, roasted marshmallows like we were 20 years younger. Ryan spread his dad's old fishing gear out on the dock, showing Emily how to cast, and I sat watching them laugh when the line tangled, feeling this full circle warmth. Later that night, Ryan said quietly, I wish Dad could see us now. And I told him, he sees you choosing us. That trip taught me something important. Reconciliation isn't just about fixing the past. It's about creating new memories that crowd out the painful ones. We've made a habit of those small adventures now, apple picking, holiday lights, drives, even just Sunday breakfasts at the diner. They're nothing extravagant, but they're ours, and they add up to a life where nobody feels left behind. I've also realized how much community matters. Sue next door, Tom from yoga, the folks at the library. They all became my lifeline when I felt invisible, and now they're part of our extended circle. Ryan and Emily join neighborhood potlucks with me sometimes, and it's funny watching them chat with people my age, like it's the most natural thing. It reminds me that family isn't only blood or marriage. It's the people who show up. If you're watching this and feeling that ache of distance from your own kids or parents, know that it can change. Not overnight, not without effort and hard conversations, but it can. One honest talk, one kept promise at a time. These days, I catch myself smiling at little things I used to dread, like the phone ringing and knowing it's one of them, just checking in. Ryan installed this video doorbell so he can peek in when he's worried, and half the time it's just him waving hello on his way to work. Emily sends me recipes she wants to try together, and we've got a standing Saturday bake date most weeks. My house feels alive again, full of footsteps and laughter instead of echoes. What surprises me most is how much I've grown through all this. I used to think needing help meant losing dignity. But now I see strength in letting people love you out loud. I speak up quicker when something bothers me, set boundaries when I need quiet, and accept invitations without second-guessing my welcome. Aging with grace, I've learned, means staying open to change, to forgiveness, to joy you didn't expect. Ryan and Emily talk now about wanting me closer when they buy a bigger place someday, maybe even a little in-law suite. We're not rushing it, but just knowing it's on the table feels like security I didn't have before. More than any house, though, it's the intention behind it that matters. The choice to weave me into their future instead of leaving me in the past. Have you ever come through something hard and realized you're stronger, softer, wiser all at once? That's where I am now. The loneliness taught me what matters, and the healing taught me it's never too late to claim it. One of the deepest lessons this journey carved into me is that no generation has it all figured out. We boomers thought providing and independence were enough. These younger folks chase balance in a world that never slows down. Both sides get it wrong sometimes, but when we listen, really listen, we meet in the middle. Ryan's learned to log off work at a decent hour. Emily's learned to lean on family instead of going it alone. And I've learned that love isn't something you earn by staying out of the way. It's something you receive by staying in the room. We still do therapy check-ins every few months, just to keep the lines clear. Dr. Harris calls it maintenance. Like tuning a car that runs well but still needs care. I like that. No shame in keeping the engine humming. I've started sharing bits of our story with friends at the senior center, and you'd be amazed how many nod along, eyes misty, saying they're living the same quiet ache. Some have reached out to their kids after hearing me talk, started those tough conversations. If even one family finds their way back sooner because of what we went through, then every tear was worth it. Does any of this resonate with you? If you're on either side of this kind of distance, parent or child, know that the door swings both ways. One person speaking up can change everything. So here we are, years from that first empty holiday table, living a life I couldn't have pictured back then. My days are full of ordinary magic grandkids on the horizon, Sunday dinners that stretch into board games, quiet evenings where Ryan drops by just to sit and talk like old times. I'm not invisible anymore, not to them and not to myself. What I want you to take from our story is simple. Family bonds can stretch thin, but they rarely snap completely. They're tougher than we think, resilient enough to mend if we're willing to do the work. Speak your truth kindly. Listen without defensiveness. Show up, even when it's messy. Forgive, not because the hurt didn't matter, but because the love matters more. I'm 73 now, healthier than I've been in years, blood pressure steady, heart full. I garden again, travel a bit with friends, volunteer at the library. But the best part of any day is knowing I'm woven into my kids' lives, and they into mine. We chose each other again, deliberately, daily. If you're hurting in silence today, please don't wait for a crisis like I did. Reach out. You deserve to be seen, to be chosen. And if you're the one who drifted, it's never too late to turn the car around. Thank you for letting me share this with you. If this story touched you, or if you've walked a similar road, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And if you know someone who needs these words, please share it. These stories only help when they reach the people waiting for them. We're all just trying to love each other better, and most days, that's enough. The end.